A lot of people move to Chicago chasing a more walkable, transit-friendly lifestyle and still end up in neighborhoods that make daily life feel more inconvenient, more car-dependent, and less exciting than they expected. Let me be very clear, folks. This is not me saying that these are bad neighborhoods. Not at all.
Doing in this bad neighborhood.
This is about avoiding the wrong fit. Because Chicago is not one lifestyle. One neighborhood may look practical on paper, but still push you towards driving more than you want. Other may look like great value until the day-to-day routine starts to feel off. And another can be very walkable and still not feel like your version of Chicago long term. So in this video, I'm breaking down Jefferson Park, South Shore, and South Loop through 3 filters: unexpected car dependency, hidden lifestyle trade-offs, and whether the neighborhood actually fits the next 3 to 5 years of your life. Because if your average Tuesday feels off, the neighborhood is off for you. Let's get into it. So first up is Jefferson Park. And Jefferson Park is a really good example of that first point that I made, avoiding neighborhoods that may make you more car dependent than you expected. Now, before the Jefferson Park folks come after me in the comments, let me be very clear. Jefferson Park has strengths. It absolutely does. There's a transit there. There's a practical appeal there. There are buyers who want a little more breathing room, a little more ease of getting in and out of the city. And for that buyer, Jefferson Park can make sense. Nothing's wrong with that. But if your main reason is moving to Chicago is to live in a more naturally walkable, car-light lifestyle, this is where I want you to slow down.
Slow down!
Because what sometimes happens with Jefferson Park is buyers hear transit hub and they kind of fill in the blanks with a version of Chicago living that may not match the actual feel. They hear Blue Line, they hear Metra, they hear more attainable housing, and they start telling themselves, okay, this is perfect. I'm getting city access without paying lakefront or trendier north side prices, and on paper, I get it. I really do. But your paper lifestyle and your live lifestyle, right, are not always the same thing. The feel of a place matters. The ease of a place matters. The number of things you can do spontaneously without thinking too hard matters. If you're somebody who wants to walk out your front door and have that immediate sense of destination, of activity, of errands being simple, of grabbing something to eat or drink or hop on a transit and just kind of flowing through your day, Jefferson Park may feel more limited than you expected. And again, that does not mean it has no convenience. It means the convenience may not hit the same way it does in a neighborhood that is denser, more layered, and more intuitively walkable block to block. So when I say unexpected car dependency, I don't mean you're driving everywhere all day long. I mean you may be driving more than the version of your Chicago life that you had in your head. Excuse me. And that matters, folks, because I always say, don't hate the car.
Hey, don't hate the player, hate the game.
I've got a car. I'm not anti-car. We just need less dependence on the car and more options. That is the whole point. If the whole reason you're making this move is to create a more urban daily life, you do not want to accidentally move into a neighborhood where you still find yourself reaching for the keys more than you'd like. For the right buyer, Jefferson Park can be practical. Oh, and folks, but by the way,
Hey, listen up.
if you're relocating to Chicago and trying to figure out which neighborhood actually fits the way you want to live, this is exactly the conversation I have with buyers, because this is not just about bedroom count and budget. Those matter, of course. I'm a realtor focusing on urbanism, as you know, and I understand that, but the bigger question is lifestyle fit. Are you trying to go car light? Do you want to be able to walk more for your daily needs? And are you okay with a quieter pocket if it means a little more space? Or are you going to forget that in 4 months because what you really wanted was more energy, more convenience, and more urban rhythm? So if you're serious about a move, reach out to me. I have on the screen here a scheduler. You can click on it. It's a QR code and schedule a consult. We can talk through your criteria before you make a mistake that looks smart on paper but feels wrong once life kicks in. The second neighborhood I want to talk about is South Shore. And South Shore is really good example of the second point I made. Avoid neighborhoods where the value looks good on paper, but the trade-offs are bigger than you expected. Now, South Shore is interesting, folks, because I can already hear the comments. Beautiful architecture, lake proximity, some really compelling housing stock, potential upside. Yes, all that is fair. And for the certain buyers, there is absolutely a case for South Shore. But this is where I want to challenge a mistake that buyers make all the time, especially relocation buyers. They see more square footage, they see lower price points relative to other areas, and they see the lake nearby. And all of a sudden, the narrative becomes, wow, this is the hidden gem. This is the value play. This is the smart move. But here's the thing. Lifestyle is not a spreadsheet. It just isn't. The question is not only what am I getting for the money? The question is, what is my life, the lifestyle, going to feel like here every week? What does my routine feel like? How much friction is there? How easy is it to get around? And how consistent is the convenience? How much of my week feels intuitive versus planned out? And if you are the type of buyer who is moving to Chicago because you want a stronger everyday urban experience, South Shore may not give you the version of that. If you're getting value from this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because this is what I talk about on this channel: Chicago neighborhoods, urbanism, walkability, biking, public transit, missing middle housing, and how all of that connects to the real estate decision. Because again, this is not just where do I buy, it's how do I live. And if there's a neighborhood that you're debating right now, put it in the comments, put it down in the comments. I'd be happy to maybe do another video on it, because there are a lot of neighborhoods in Chicago and where the story is a little more nuanced than what the internet makes it sound like. So let's go on to the next section. The third neighborhood and final neighborhood is South Loop. And this is where I really want to make an important distinction, because South Loop is not here because it lacks convenience. In fact, it's the opposite. South Loop is a really, really good example of that third point: avoid neighborhoods that do not match your next 3 to 5 years, even if they check a lot of the obvious boxes right now. South Loop is convenient, it's walkable, it's practical. You've got access, you've got newer housing, you've got grocery options, you've got a lot that makes sense. Maybe not the Bears pretty soon. And you're relocating next to something that feels straightforward. And for some buyers, by the way, it absolutely is the right answer. But there is another kind of buyer who tours South Loop and likes it intellectually more than emotionally. And they respect it. They see why it works. They understand the convenience. They understand the access. But something about it does not feel like the version of Chicago that they were hoping for. And that matters, because sometimes buyers solve too much for practicality and not enough for feel. They pick the neighborhood that makes the most sense on paper, but that one that they are almost excited to live in. And again, I'm not saying every move needs to be emotional. Of course not. This is still a major financial decision. But if you are choosing where to live in a city, neighborhood, feel matters a lot. South Loop can be really good for somebody who wants newer construction easy access, a more predictable type of housing stock, right? Condos typically, and a relatively straightforward transition into the city living. But if what, you're actually chasing is a stronger neighborhood texture, more organic, of that distinction, Chicago identity may feel less polished and more rooted. Chicago Loop may start to feel a little in between over time. Convenient, yes. Right for you, maybe not. That is why I put in this video. Because buyers assume a walkable neighborhood is automatically this right neighborhood. Not necessarily. Walkability matters, transit matters. I talk about that all the time, but urbanism is not just a score. It's just how many destinations are nearby. It also is how the place feels to you in your real life. So if you're thinking South Loop, I'd ask a simple question. Am I choosing this because it actually fits me or because it feels like the safest, easiest decision right now? The final point here is avoid making a neighborhood decision based on the wrong criteria. With Jefferson Park, the risk is thinking transit access automatically means the kind of car-light urban lifestyle you may actually want, when in reality you may still find yourself relying on the car more than expected. With South Shore, the risk is getting seduced by the value without fully respecting the day-to-day trade-offs that come with that decision. And with South Loop, the risk is assuming convenience alone equals fit, when a place can be highly practical and still not feel like your version of Chicago long term. And by the way, this is why I keep coming back to that average Tuesday idea. What does life actually feel like here? Because the wrong neighborhood is usually not the one with the worst reputation. It's the one that quietly works against your routine. It's the one where the errands are harder, the transit is less useful than you thought, the energy is not what you hoped for, or the trade-offs keep piling up after the move. So if you're moving to Chicago, yes, look at the listing. Yes, look at the numbers. Yes, understand the budget, of course, but also ask yourself what kind of life this neighborhood is creating for you. That is the bigger question. I'm AD, a Chicago realtor focused on all things urbanism. And again, I'm not anti-car, I just want less dependence on the car. More walkability, more biking, more transit, and more neighborhoods that actually support the way people want to live. If you need help figuring out which Chicago neighborhood fits you best, reach out. And if you want me to do a part 2 on 3 more neighborhoods, drop a comment below.